Hey there, welcome to the podcast. I'm Kelly Renato, and today I have a guest, Annmarie Chereso, and we have a wonderful, heartfelt conversation about how we can allow in more compassion, grace, love, connection. She's a best-selling author, a conscious relationship coach, and she is just a very calming, groundful voice for us in things that we all experience in terms of conflict and connection with those we love. So join me and listen in. It's a great conversation, and I think you'll love it. All right, Annmarie, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really excited about this conversation. How are you today?
I'm really great, and I'm excited too, Kelly. Thanks for having me and hosting me, and I'm looking forward to diving in with you.
Absolutely. I feel like you are doing so many good things, and I think my listeners are just going to have so much to take away from this because you're really the topics that you're going down and helping people with are the things that every day all of us need. But
Yeah.
before we jump into that journey, I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit about how you got to this journey um, of
Yeah.
studying relationships and conflict and all of the things that you're helping people with.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. I think it's a really important question, right? Because we all are on our life journey and our life path, and it's interesting to hear how we get to where we're going. For me, I, you know, grew up in a family that was really beautiful. I had two parents who got together very, very young, right out of high school, three siblings. I'm the youngest of four. And of course, there was all kinds of family drama and conflict, as all families have. But I had this idea that I was going to grow up and get married and have my own family and do things really differently, right? I'm sure everyone
Right.
listening in
Yes.
has had that same thought. So when I got married, I was reading all the books and doing all the things and taking all the classes and trying to come up with this foolproof plan to never have any problems. And what I found, I appreciate your giggles in there.
Right. Oh gosh.
What I found was pretty much the exact opposite. And I ended up, pregnant with my third child, going through a divorce, and just in this situation that completely shocked me. And I didn't know, like, how did I get here? How did I get here? I thought I was going to do it differently. I thought I was doing it better. And what I didn't realize was that this was all part of the journey, and everything I was trying to avoid were actually the invitations to my own personal and spiritual growth. And that it wasn't about avoiding conflict or avoiding difficulties. It was really about how am I being with those things, that those are all invitations into deeper connections, and trying to avoid them all was really the problem, right? Like it
Right.
was the
Oh
resist.
gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can all
So
relate to that.
yeah, I realized that this idea of transforming your life doesn't come from control, but it really comes from this place of presence and awareness and responsibility. So now that I've learned all those things and I've got to apply them, yeah, I really, really feel passionate about sharing the tools I've learned with others so that we all can learn to navigate this journey with a little bit more ease and a little bit more awareness and a little bit more grace.
So big. I love those words, but you're definitely speaking to me because I feel like the word control, I feel like w- the more we try to control, the more problems we have, I find.
Yep.
And it's so hard to learn to let go and know that, it's almost going to be better when we learn how to let go. But awareness and leaning into the discomfort, I find avoidance. And I still am working on this, which is, I love this conversation with you, but the avoiding, I think it's so easy to avoid. And, I've always said, oh, I just hate conflict. I hate conflict. I just don't want the conflict. And
Yep.
somebody said to me one time, well, nobody likes conflict. And I'm like, well, I get that, but I also, I don't know because some people are
right in that conflict. And I feel like I'm like, but you're right, like learning how to confront the conflict. And let's start with that. My goodness, like, how do we become more aware and not avoid the conflict, or where do you
Yeah.
start, I guess?
Well, Kelly, I think what you just said a minute ago is some people want to avoid the conflict. That's absolutely true. Many of us fall in that category, and other people want to dive in. And if you just look at reality TV and social media and politics, you'll see all those differences in personality
Absolutely.
types. And one of the reasons that we like conflict and drama so much is because it's so familiar to us. And our nervous systems are actually attuned to feeling a particular way, depending on the family system you grew up in. So, if you have a family system that was very conflict avoidant, your nervous system kind of got set at a particular set point. And so any kind of conflict or difficulty will kick up anxiety in the body. And so, of course, when we're feeling that way in the body, we don't want to feel that way. We push it away, we resist it. Now, others of us grew up in highly conflict ridden families and it feels normal or natural to us. So we might be um, more, we might want to be more addicted to it actually. So what happens is in the nervous system, we're releasing norepinephrine, adrenaline, all kinds of hormones that are stimulating the nervous system. And we will find that whatever we've become used to in our family system growing up is what we seek as we're moving into our adult relationships and beyond. So really we're taught how to handle conflict in our childhood. However, what we aren't taught is what the root cause of conflict is, and then how to get that root cause addressed. So, conflict is actually coming up for a reason. It comes up because something in the system isn't working and it's looking for another solution, another way of being. Conflict is actually really, really healthy. It's appropriate.
Hmm.
But because we haven't been taught how to navigate it in a way that's healthy and supportive to the system, we end up butting heads. And that creates what it ends up creating is just more of it, or it leads into more drama. Drama is sort of conflict on steroids in my world.
Yeah. So what you just described, I feel like I can relate to, and several experiences were
Yeah.
coming to mind. Um, but before I ask the one question, you said, the growing up, and we hear the generational patterns, and well, that's
Yep.
how I grew up. That's what my dad did. That's what my mom did. I hear that a lot, and it's sometimes it's a joke because like one of us in my family will say, "Well, that's just how I am. That's how my
Yes.
family." And I'm like, no, I'm not having it. But what you're talking about is a little bit deeper. So, how do you break those patterns of, you're exactly right. Conflict comes up, and me personally, I think I've improved. Um, but I do. I feel anxiety. I feel, how can I shut this down? How can I fix this? How can I, rather
Yes.
than, I guess how to, bet there's a healthier way than just shutting it down and trying.
Yeah, it's about trust. What I have found is that I trust when some kind of conflict is arising, that it's actually here for the highest good. So, my highest good, my partner's highest good, my family system's highest good, maybe for the community's highest good, whatever the conflict is arising, I'm trusting it, and I'm trusting that whatever path we're navigating to move through that conflict is going to lead me to the highest good. Now, if we're unwilling to move through the discomfort of that conflict, and then we are shutting it down, we don't actually get to the goods on the other side. So the thing to be asking, like to your point a minute ago when you said, it makes me a little uncomfortable and I kind of want to shut it down. That's the invitation. That's where we're being invited to expand our capacity so that we can hold more love, more energy, more light in our nervous system. So, for instance, when a conflict arises and maybe you were 3 years old and your parents had a way of navigating it, and your nervous system attuned to one of your parents, one or the other, and it was the parent who was like, "Okay, let's just stop. Let's just push this down. Let's not make a big deal out of this." If that's where your nervous system attuned, you sort of got a little contracted or smaller, and that's fine. That's not a judgment. There's no problem with that. It's just information that we get to use. And when conflict comes up and you're noticing that about yourself, it's really an invitation to expand. And that expansion starts with acknowledging the part of you that feels maybe scared or uncomfortable with whatever the discomfort or the disharmony is. And so the more we're able to welcome all the parts of us that are uncomfortable, the more space we have to bring more love into that moment for ourselves and then consequently for others. And you said something that was really important, which is a lot of us walk around the world going, well, that's just the way I am. That's just the way I am, right? Like we all say that. That's just how I am.
Right.
I'm quick to anger. That's my pattern, is quick to anger. It's not actually just the way I am. It is just the way I have been conditioned to be. And there's a
Right.
big difference. So for anyone listening in, I want you to really get this point. You are not just the way you are. You are a conditioned being. Your essence is peace. Your essence is harmony. Your essence is deep connection. So, anytime you're out of connection to that truth of who you are not in right relationship to your essence. And so, it is not just the way you are, it's a persona or a part of you that's been developed with lots and lots of years of conditioning and programming and practice that you have developed to help protect your essence. And so these patterns that we create, we can undo them. Not only can we undo them, we're being invited to undo them. We're being invited to heal them and transform them back to our truest nature.
Wow. So I guess then when we get in that, so when I feel that, like a conflict arises
Yeah.
and you feel the anxiety, and you said um, to accept that in yourself, or be, I'm trying to think of you said, be open to that's what you're feeling.
Yes.
So what's the next best healthy, supportive way to get through that, I guess, and expand it?
Yeah. So this is what happened to me this
Like
weekend.
in the situation.
Yeah, I was experiencing some anxiety this weekend. Um, and often what happens, and anyone listening in, and even Kelly yourself, you can think about a time when you feel that discomfort in your body, that anxiety or whatever. And often what we do is we project that onto others because we want to expel it from the body. We don't like the way
Hmm.
it feels. So we start doing our habits, whatever our habits are. Mine are control. Like I'm starting to organize things and I'm getting people in order around the house and I'm just doing all these things because I'm trying to do something with this energy. In my case, and what I teach others to do is rather than do anything, like it's no doing. In the moment, you have to really build that muscle of awareness. Like in this now moment, what's happening in my body? I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling resistant or this conflict or this anxiety is coming up. All right. Like anyone who's listening that's a mother, any of us who are mothers really understand this deeply. If your child is out of control, you hold your child, right? You hold them, you create space for them to calm down. You become the energy that you want them to be. You don't go join them in the chaos of their
Right.
anxiety. You're right. It's
Some
weird.
people might, but that's not the good. No.
Well, some of
Yeah,
us
I
might
know.
when we're dysregulated. I raise my hand. I did that for years with my youngest,
Right.
but it wasn't my natural inclination when I was in harmony with myself, when I wasn't stressed or anxious or all those other things. I would know what this other being needs right now is just a safe space to melt down.
Mhm.
So we have to learn how to create that safe space in our own selves. So when I was feeling that anxious, I can't speak today, Kelly. When I was feeling that anxiety this weekend, I sat with myself. I literally put my hand on my chest. I'm like, okay, I'm aware of anxiety. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit here and get curious about it and be with it and allow it to be here. Allow myself to feel uncomfortable because it is uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It's not fun. And then really just let that um, anxious feeling be there as long as it needs to be, with this other part of you that's loving and accepting and generous and compassionate and kind, all of that. So when we allow all of that to come forward, it becomes like a chicken soup of emotions. And we've got compassion hanging out over here, and we've got anxiety hanging out over here. And we're breathing, we're literally titrating between the two of them. And as you're doing that, you're spending a little bit, maybe a little bit more time with compassion. Like, okay, I'm going to breathe into compassion a little bit more. Great. There's more compassion. So now compassion is taking up more space than the anxiety. Great. So now the anxiety starts to soften and loosen. And now the love and the compassion is getting bigger and taking up more space in the body, and the anxiety is getting smaller. And that's how we expand into love and compassion. We literally breathe into it with our awareness and our intention without judging the compassion. It's like, you're okay over here. Come on in. You're welcome here. Like I want you to be here as much as you need to be here. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense, and I think a big part of what I'm thinking as you're saying it, it's that, like you said, space, but like I tell a lot of my clients, and they're so like, the world, their life, everything is just so fast paced, not, non-stopping, like that you have to learn how to pause. You have to learn how to slow down a little bit
Yeah.
and create that space. I always
Yeah.
talk about you got to find some space in your life because until you do, like you can't really find, and really I feel like it's exactly what you said, like, and you can't allow any room for any more like patience or like you just said, compassion. And it makes sense to me because if you're not creating space or pausing or slowing down at all, you never give yourself time to have any of that, right? Like,
Well, yeah, you can't tap into it because all of your energy is focused on the chaos of the world, and it's almost
right.
impossible not to, Kelly. You're absolutely right. Like, how do we not pay
Right,
attention to all
exactly.
that?
It's small
And
steps, right?
small steps, and we have to create the counterbalance to what is being offered to us out in the world. Which, I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. The minute you wake up, I don't know what your mind does, but mine's like, "What do I got to do today? What are the?" And it's you're off to the races from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. So, yes, you're right. Creating a disciplined practice around creating space is key.
So big, but I like how you said it because then you give room for the other feelings to come in. Because if you're never allowing them in, you're just going to stay in that anxious state, that stressed out state, that reactive state, right?
Exactly right.
So, yeah, I like that, allowing space to allow room for that. Um,
It's a
so,
muscle. It's a muscle we need to build.
absolutely, I love that. Yes. So when it comes to this conflict, obviously, we can never get rid of conflict. So doing what you're telling us is important to learn how to handle it and allow space for healthier emotions. But you also talk about this root cause of conflict, and you talk about the one question that can help us.
Hmm.
I've read that in several of things that you've put out there, and I'm so
Yep.
curious about that.
Yeah, there's this one question that I offer that helps wake us up. And it's a roadmap that I teach all my clients. And, it's a roadmap that I've been following for many, many years. And it starts with this question, which is, where am I? And I have whole workshops and courses where I teach how to use that question and apply it in your life. But the question is, like I said, it's a portal to waking up to deeper awareness. It's asking you to stop and pause for a moment and look at, is my heart open or is my heart closed? Or another way to look at it is, am I open or closed? Or another way to look at it is, am I feeling empowered or disempowered? Even another way to look at it is, am I coming from a place of trust, or am I in a place of fear? So those are all the different, like, ways we
Mm-hmm.
can be. And 99% of us, 99% of the time, are coming from a place of fear or control, which is totally normal.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're in a place of fear or control, we're in our limbic brain, and we're not able to create real, authentic connection from that place. We can only create scarcity, conflict, drama, and control from that place. So, having the awareness, like noticing this weekend, for instance, in my example, I noticed I was in a state of anxiety and I was in no condition to create connection. I was with my husband out of town at the time, and we had this, like, morning plan together. We hadn't been together for a long, long time. He'd been traveling, I'd been traveling. It was like we were going to have coffee and, have this blissful morning together. And I wake up in a state of total anxiety, and I had to go, where am I right now? Okay, I'm in some fear. I'm in my body's contracted. And what that means is, I'm not actually available for connection. I'm only available for protection. It's a very different energy. And that means that I'm in scarcity. I'm in my limbic brain. I'm feeling threatened. Somehow my consciousness, my ego is feeling threatened. And from that place, all of my attention and awareness is going to be on securing my safety. Now, I may not look like it on the outside, but I'm just not available for connection. So this weekend, I had said to my husband, hey, look, I'm having this experience right now, and I'm not available to do the things this morning that we had hoped to do together. I'm going to have to go tend to this part of myself. And I had to figure out what that's going to look like, because inevitably, had I not done that, my experience has been that I'm not available. My husband's wanting attention from me, wants to have a conversation with me, or whatever it is, and I'm hijacked by this experience I'm having. And if I don't go tend to it and address it, I'm not able to get connected to him, and then he's feeling that on some level, and then conflict will come up. It will arise because I'll either not repeat back to him what he said properly, or he'll feel ignored, or whatever. Whatever happens, his needs won't get met, my needs won't get met, and conflict will arise. So in order to circumvent that, I was able to say to him in this moment, hey, I need this. I need you to hold me for 5 minutes while I move this anxiety. And he's like, all right, let's do that. And sure enough, we did that for a little bit. And then my anxiety kind of got a little bit bigger. And then what was interesting about it is, his anxiety got triggered a little bit, because he was feeling like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to help
Right.
her. I don't know how to fix her. So then he got into a little bit of a triggered state, from his fear around, he wanted to help me, but he didn't quite know how. So then, there was this little dance that we had to do, where he had to presence himself and I had to presence myself. And slowly but surely, with some space and understanding and love and compassion and all those qualities, we were able to transform one another's experiences. And interestingly enough, anyone listening in, what happens as a result of that is you build deeper connection. Because inside of that whole experience, inside of my vulnerability, inside of his vulnerability, inside of his willingness to hold space and my willingness to say what I needed, we were working out how to build more trust between us. I trusted that when I spoke what I needed, he would try and meet my need and we would come together and try and figure it out together. It wasn't perfect, but inside of this construct of awareness and vulnerability, we were able to create more connection in that moment. And it was really healing for me.
So, first of all, I love what you just described, and I will say the awareness to me is huge. Like
Yeah.
the awareness and being open to
Yes.
it. And I find, I'm sure there's many people listening, and when I talk to clients or friends or anyone in my life, if there's any of what we're talking about right now, if it comes up, the being open to it. Like so
Yeah.
many people will hear that story, be like, that won't happen with me and my husband.
Right.
But I was the person years ago that probably felt more of that when I was deep in conflict, anxiety, all of that. And I love when you say the vulnerability and building the connection, because there's so much truth in that.
Yeah.
Um, I read Brene Brown's book at the time, Daring Greatly.
Yep.
I would guess you know that. And
Yep.
I still remember when I finished reading that book, or maybe it was probably in the middle of it at that part, but it was very similar to exactly what you're talking about. I walked into the kitchen and I looked at my husband and I was like, listen, I got to put some stuff on the table here. And I remember he looked at me like I was crazy, but that really was the start of exactly what you're saying, trying to
Yes.
be more vulnerable, which is really hard, I think, in marriages when you let the conflict keep going or let the stress keep going, or you never, what you said in the beginning, find the space
Yes.
to start being aware and just being open to it. Like be open to the possibility of something better, something different.
Yes. And I think what happens, like I said earlier, we learn in childhood how much vulnerability we that is available in our family systems, and most of us of this generation have learned not so much
Hmm.
vulnerability is
Right.
we don't go there. I learned, my parents had only a certain capacity. I love them, they're amazing, and they just had a certain capacity. They couldn't meet my vulnerability needs, and it's only because no one taught them and no one met their needs. It's not because anyone's doing anything bad or wrong here, right? I just want to
Right.
clarify that.
Absolutely.
But however, it does set in place certain patterns. So, to the extent that your parents can meet you in vulnerability, will be uh, to the extent to which you're willing to be vulnerable, because of course you've had the experience as a child, it didn't work, right? Of course you've had that experience. So if it didn't work all those times as a child, you're certainly not going to go taking those risks later in life. And by the way, you're going to attract a partner who's probably similar to the capacity your parents had. So the idea here is we're learning. We're
Absolutely.
toddlers. We're learning how to be vulnerable. And guess what? Your partner's not going to get it right away. Like they're not
Right.
going to know what to do. I call my friends and I'm like, I have to create a literal roadmap and tell him exactly what to do. And it's frustrating because no one wants to do that in the midst of their vulnerable moment. But that's what we have to do for one another. We are walking hand in hand in this new territory with one another. And so we really need to practice. And that's why I said, my husband and I have been practicing this for years and years, 14 years. We've been, digging in. We've been in a relationship 14 years together. Um, and we're not perfect. Like we're still learning and we're doing this dance, but we still, to Brene Brown, get in the arena and we practice. And every time it gets a little bit better, we learn a little bit more, and the need gets a little bit more met.
And I think what you just said is so important. I think when people listen to podcasts, read things, see social media. Nobody's perfect. And even though, like I just said, I feel like I've come so far, it's still not perfect, and it probably never will be, but we just keep learning and growing and trying.
Yes.
And that's what I feel like, regardless of the situation you're in, you either sit in it or you want to learn, grow, and try. And you just keep doing that over and over every
Yeah.
day, right? So for that person that listens and says, this isn't going to work, what is that first step for them to say, because what you just described, I think, was amazing. But for that very, very beginning
Yeah.
of, I really want to have a better connection, but my husband's going to look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah. I want to say to that person who thinks that, I've been there, and Kelly, I'm sure you've been there.
Yes.
Um, it's that it's that process I described earlier, and again, it's acknowledging that that belief you're having, he's not going to get there, is just a belief rooted in some pattern from earlier in your life. And if you can embrace that, really become aware that that's a part of you, but that's not all the truth that's available. And really having a lot of compassion for the part of you that believes that, and getting your own, meeting your own need first, which means acknowledging that part that doesn't believe it, which is a part that, is an egoic part that's simply trying to protect you from getting your feelings hurt, right? So we don't want to take risks because we don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be denied. We don't want to deal with the feeling of not being received. And we really have to face those parts and acknowledge them and create space for them and love them up. And as those parts soften, they won't feel the need to hold on so tightly and protect you from getting hurt. Because guess what? When the first few times you try this, you're going to get hurt. It's like
Hmm.
riding a bike, you fall off. So it's going to happen. And you're building resilience in your capacity to get hurt and get back on the horse and try again and have faith that, if I keep trying, my partner will eventually meet me. And then the other piece, Kelly, is maybe my partner isn't available to meet me. Maybe I try and try for years and years, and no matter what, they're not available. And then I have to make some decisions. And that's scary for people because
Hmm.
those decisions we don't really want to have to make. So we'd rather avoid those decisions and stay unfulfilled and unmet and all the things. So there's a lot to be faced in that one who has that belief it's never going to happen. And doing your work around those beliefs is key to transforming them.
And I love the giving yourself the compassion. You keep saying that,
Yeah.
because of giving yourself compassion when you're trying to do this and going through that. Um, let me, oh, sorry. Were you going to say
Well,
something?
I want to say something about that because I think it's really hard to offer self compassion.
Hmm.
We're so hard on ourselves,
So hard.
particularly as women and
Yes,
mothers. I don't know if you found that, but I have. But
absolutely.
what did help me was to continue to think about how I mother my children in my best moments. We all have our we all have our weakest moments, but in my best moments, when my kids were afraid of something or sad or scared, it was really easy to become a loving, compassionate space for them, particularly when they were little, 3, 4 years old, and they fell and hurt their knee, or their favorite candy ice cream cone fell on the ground. Like they're dealing with these catastrophic emotions. And it's silly. It's just an ice cream cone and they're going to be fine. And it's easy to become that loving space where you just hold them and let them cry it out or have their feelings or have their tantrums or whatever it is that they needed in that moment. It's easy as a parent to do that, right? Because this too shall pass. So when I think about my parts, like this is never going to happen, or I'm never going to get, what I want. When I think about my parts, like my kids, I'm able to create some space and separation from me and those parts. And then I'm able to offer myself or my part the compassion it needs to dissolve. And that practice has been really, really helpful to me. So if anyone's struggling with the idea of self-compassion around these parts that interfere with becoming vulnerable or creating connection in your relationship, um, imagine them as your children, or a niece or nephew, or a puppy, or something
Nice.
in
Yes.
your life.
I like that. So let me ask you, so I find a lot of times, and I don't like to do the women, man, wife, husband, whatever, but it, you know, I think a lot of the conflicts or the issues or the lack of connection sometimes comes from us. And I used to do this, and I feel like I think I've become a lot more aware and tried to improve on this. But our expectations, our overreactions, or our extra drama that's unnecessary, like all of those things that I think a lot of it comes from the world. Or we see too much now. We see what everyone has, what everyone's doing, what everyone how do we help break that loop of more drama, overreacting to unrealistic expectations, I guess, even.
Breaking the loop of drama. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that, and just it to me, it's an awareness too of ourselves, of what we're asking, whether it's us asking our husband asking us, our kids, but that lack of connection that comes, I think, sometimes from the and they probably two separate subjects, breaking the drama and unrealistic expectations that just kill the connection.
Yeah, gosh, that one's big for me, the unrealistic
I,
expectations.
I find a lot of us, and I used to and still do sometimes, I get myself in check, but I think it's easy to do that in a marriage, especially, but lots of relationships.
Well, I mean, particularly in our marriages, because we grew up in a Disney culture, so we all want Cinderella outcomes. Um, but we also have unrealistic ideas about what it means to be in relationship, to be in a family system, to be in community. We we're all looking at other people's lives as if they're perfect and ideal, and ours is broken or
Hmm.
wrong somehow. And these expectations about what we believe they should look like is really crushing our ability to create what we want. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I think it's a really important point that you're making, because now with the, you know, advent of social media in our face all the time, and everyone's polished life being presented to us on a silver platter, um, these ideas and these images get stuck in our mind, and we we get stuck with the thoughts like, well, why can't I have that, and why aren't we creating that, what's wrong with me, right? So we get on those loops. And again, getting aware that these are just thoughts that we're having is key. Separating yourself from the thoughts, noticing the thoughts, really developing a mindfulness practice is key. And then also it's this grieving process. We have to get better at grieving. And what I mean by that is, when I go, I don't know, how many people listening in have planned a really fun family outing, and you have a vision for it, like, we're going to do this thing together as a family, and it's going to be so fun. And then one of your kids sits down to the table and has had a bad day, and then they kick the other one, and next thing you know, there's this big argument, and you prepare this beautiful meal or whatever you've done, whatever your image is, and somehow it gets ruined in a second.
I'm
And
pretty sure we can all relate.
right. Story of my life. You
Yes,
have
we,
3 kids or whatever, 10
right.
kids. So that image that you've had in your mind, there's like a small death. And we need to learn to grieve that. Now, for me, what happens and has happened in those situations, if one of my kids messes up my plan, this vision I've had of this lovely family dinner or whatever, I I get angry. I get angry and I start demanding they behave in a certain way, and I get into my triggered reactivity. And guess what, folks? Anyone listening and tried that? It doesn't help. It
No,
doesn't.
I know.
It does not create what I
No,
want.
it doesn't help.
What helps, what I have found helps, and again, I feel like I'm being a little redundant, but it's the same point. I stop, I ask myself that question, where am I? I'm usually in a triggered state. There's something I'm defending or protecting, something's being threatened. In that case, what's being threatened is this dream or this vision I've had. And when I can identify what's feeling threatened to my ego, I'm then able to put my attention on that threat. And in this case, it's like, well, I feel really sad that I'm not getting this experience I want, and this other thing is taking over. And instead of trying to control the thing out there, I'm gonna attend to my sadness, my grief, my sorrow, whatever it is, that feeling of that disappointment, and create again, attending to love and compassion and kindness and curiosity, create more space for that inside me. And guess what? When I have more space for love and compassion inside me for me, energetically, I have more of that available to offer to the rest of the people I'm with, in this case, family situation. Then I'm able to bring some compassion to the situation. And that energy, that frequency is far more transformative than the frequency of anger or frustration or fear. So from that place, I'm able to be way more powerful and impactful than from this place of anger and frustration and disappointment. But it took me going through those layers of really awareness. Whoops, I'm sad, I'm scared, I'm upset, I'm feeling threatened. Great. And then compassion for those parts until I could become available to others. So, I guess what I'm saying is connection to self is really the currency of connection to others. Can't really connect to others unless you're connected to yourself.
And I love that. And you said you sound like you're repeating yourself, but I do love that you're repeating yourself because to me, it
Yeah.
does all come back to this. Like a lot of the things we go through in life, being more aware of ourself and loving ourself and giving grace to ourself, it does help us with everything else around us. And I think there's so much in this world of, you know, that we have to do all these things and we just skip ourselves. It's almost like, well, I
Yes.
don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for
Yes.
that. But you're right. If you want the rest of the things to improve, you have to take time for yourself and getting to know yourself and being good to yourself. I
Yep.
do. I love that because in that situation, you're absolutely right. Rather than keep going back and forth and getting upset, and you do have to stop and pause. And there's nothing better than the habit of learning how to do that in everything, in work, in family, in marriage, in anything,
Yep.
to pause, be aware of what you're feeling, sit in it. It's okay. Be nice to yourself and start learning a new response, I would guess, right? Is that the another good thing that we can learn is how do we then respond
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah,
react?
sure. I mean, right. We're responding versus reacting, which is key to being conscious, self-aware, mindful, whatever word resonates for you. And I think it's a really valuable. I think it's the most valuable skill we can learn as human beings is how to connect with ourselves, offer ourselves kindness, compassion, curiosity, because at our essence we're energetic beings, and all of those things that we're talking about, the frequency of love, of compassion, of kindness, of curiosity, they're all energetic frequencies. So we're using words to describe them, but they're just a frequency that we're offering. So we have to tap into that frequency in our own vibration, in our own field of awareness. And once we're in that frequency, others will start to entrain with us because it sends out a signal to others that, remember, this is your true state. This is your essence. We're all, remember I said at the top of the call, our true state, our essence is peace, is harmony. Look at every baby that's sticking their toe in their mouth. They're like in their essence, right? They're just happy, at, at peace. They're feeling safe. They're comfortable in their bodies. That is our true state. So when we get ourselves back to that true state, we're reminding others, oh, this is it. This is how it feels. And people will entrain with that. And it's a gift that we're offering others when we're able to do it for ourselves. Just think about the people you love being around. People will say, I can't quite place it, but I just love being with them. There's this like energy that they have. And I'm sure you can, anyone
Yes,
listening in, you can find these people
definitely.
in your life.
And being aware of that and knowing that, to me, is so huge, is knowing the people that give you that or bring that out in you, right?
Yes, they invite you into that energy just by being that energy, just by being that presence of love, compassion, kindness, whatever the energy is, the higher frequencies. And then there's the people you're like, I don't want to be around them at all because they're like all jacked up. They're like, I don't want to be around that. And that's because they're in those denser, lower vibrational energies that we don't actually want it to be around. And this is back to the nervous system work. Our nervous system remembers. It remembers what peace is. It remembers what calm is. It remembers what love is. So we want to be around those who remind us.
And that it's possible to have that in yourself, because that's what I love that you keep saying too, because that really is our essence and what we are. And if you've completely fallen off track of that and feel like you're not feeling it, it's possible. But you've got to create that space for it to be in your life.
Yep. You have to create the space. And I think that's, for anyone listening in, a big takeaway is taking time to create space for yourself, even if it's 5 minutes, right? My practice used to be 2 minutes and now it's like 2.5 hours,
Mm-hmm.
where I know that at the start of my day, I have to set the foundation for how I want to be. Now, for me, that involves sitting in stillness, journaling, meditating, maybe doing yoga, moving my body. But I carve out time every day to remember how to be peaceful. And that's going to be different for everyone, but you have to figure out what that is for you and create that space for yourself. And I know everyone listening in is going to say, I don't have the time. I'm too busy. I don't have the time. And the truth is, you have the time for whatever it is you're devoted to. You do have the time. And once you start seeing the benefits of it, you create the time. I mean, we have time to do anything we want in this life. It's just, what are we creating time for?
So powerful, so good. And I couldn't agree more. You sound just like me when you said that. That is where, when I got to the point that I was feeling all the ugly feelings and I was like, I don't want this anymore. That was the first thing I did, was I started creating space in my day. And it was in the morning. It was like 5 to 10 minutes. My kids were little, but
Yep.
I started the same thing, journaling, quiet time. And that's exactly what I told myself. This is how I'm starting my day. And then it kind of became a joke, because then I'd go out in the world and I'd be like, oh, what happened? Like, I
Uh-huh.
created. So then I had to figure out exactly what you said in the beginning. I had to figure out how to pause and handle the world. But the more I exercised the muscle, the
Yep.
stronger my foundation came, the
Yep.
better, all of what you're saying, it's possible. And I got better at it by consistently just making the time. And I do want to say, I think sometimes people, especially moms, which I talk a lot to, and is that, give yourself the permission. Like, sometimes I feel like, depending, we all walk different paths. We feel like we don't have we don't allow ourselves the permission to have the time.
No, we've been conditioned not to take care of ourselves, not to prioritize ourselves.
Right.
And and then we just start believing that we shouldn't, but it is paramount that we do. And it's hard because we do take on the lion's share of responsibility in our families and our homes as mothers. And our kids are very demanding. They're needy, needy, needy. But when we prioritize taking time for ourselves, and of course, when your kids are little, it's 5 minutes. It's not 2 hours. My kids are grown adults. Like
Right.
I don't,
Exactly.
you do what you can. You're at the red light and the stop sign, and you take a deep breath and you reconnect. Like, okay, I am peace. Just say that, repeat that phrase over and over. Or, you take what you can in the moments that you can in the different phases of life. But it's building that muscle, like you said, Kelly, and constantly reminding yourself. Because by the way, what we're constantly being reminded of out in the world is it's crazy, it's chaotic, there's stress, there's anger, there's this, there's that. All of that is being, you know, fed into our awareness. So we have to counteract that with our other beliefs and other truths that are more true. And it's practice. It's just a constant practice.
It's a constant practice, but I like that all the things that you gave us are very simple and they work. I know they work
They work.
because all of your examples are examples over the years that I found in different places, and I would agree. And it's just, don't dismiss it. It seems too simple,
Yeah.
but it's the simple choices over and over, and those are my most favorite things because I do feel like that's what works. You find the simple things to add into your life and you just do them over and over. And this might be repeated, but what are your, because you brought some of your self-care up, what's your own non-negotiable for self-care? And even if you're repeating it just to
Yeah.
say, and for your health and your self-care.
Yeah. My non negotiable is my morning practices. I got to have them. Just like my husband and I are planning a trip in a few weeks, and he was looking at flights. I'm like, nope, can't take that one because I got to have my morning practices. I
I
got
love that. Good for you.
So, I mean, obviously, there's been a time in my life or, recently, like we couldn't adjust the flight and then I adjust. But when I can, I prioritize my morning practices. And for me, those evolve and change based on where I'm at in my life cycle. Involves meditations, like I said, journaling, yoga. In the summer, it's getting outside and walking, standing in the ground in the grass and grounding. There's
Hmm.
just you have to find what works best for you. My formula is not perfect for everyone. It's just perfect for me. So you'll find what works for you, and different seasons will call forward different practices. But definitely, when I wake up in the morning, and I want to also say, this took my husband and I years to negotiate and navigate because he wanted my attention first thing in the morning, or I would be in my morning practices and he would like come into my little space where I was meditating and he'd be like, I just have one quick question. Because
I
he
can
would know
relate to
right
that.
away the answer to his question. And I would be looking at him like one eye open, going, "Are you kidding? Are you kidding me right now?"
Hmm.
So it was a constant negotiation. So really figuring out what works for you, and then being devoted to creating that, and then practicing over and over and over again. That's how you build the muscle. And I have been at this for over 30 some odd years. So it takes time, friends. It
It
takes
does.
time.
I agree, and that all of that was such good stuff. And I feel like it's been a long time for me too. And I feel like in the beginning, same thing. I would like sneak away and not even tell anyone what my plan was because I thought if I tell anyone, then they will interrupt me, or
Yes.
I'm not going to make it a big deal. But now I'm very outspoken about it.
Yes.
And
Good for
I've had
you.
that too. But I love that I love it that it's your morning. I love that it's non-negotiable. Really, really good stuff. And I do want to bring up your book. You have a book that came out this year, correct?
Yes, in May, I was part of an anthology called The Perfectly Imperfect Family, and it's a series of stories from coaches, therapists, and authors supporting people on the path to bringing more presence into their life as a parent. And in my chapter, I talk about how one simple question transformed a really stressful moment in my life with my daughter into a moment of real healing and repair, and how that really informed who I am in my relationships today. So it's a really great piece, and it's informed everything I do and I teach today.
I love that, and I look forward to reading that. Grabbed it, but did not get to before we got to talk. But I'm looking forward to reading that, and I love that you took. That's another big message that you gave us today is taking something really, whether it's hard, bad, you know, whatever word you want to use, and making something good out of it. And I think a lot of times we just see the bad or the hard, or rather than thinking, where can I go from here? Like, what can I get from here?
Yep.
What is the good coming out of it? And it's okay to do that. I think too often it's a practice of, just talking about the drama or re-talking about it or complaining at whatever, but making something good, because that's what it's for. Even you said with the conflict, is it's coming to us
Yes.
to get us to start allowing it. We just have to allow it.
Yeah, I was a conflict avoider, and I didn't realize that what I was really avoiding was being empowered, and that all conflict was really showing me how empowered I actually was. And the more I avoided the conflict, the more I was avoiding being in my power. And this experience with my daughter that I write about in the book really helped me see that my power came from being in a state or frequency of love, and that love always leads you to the highest good. And I don't mean that in the like woohoo willy nilly way. It's like really when you're resonating in the frequency of love, you have infinite possibilities available to you. And in that moment with my daughter that I write about in the book, and I was so scared because she was like this out of control kid. And I was always trying to control her, control her, control her. And this time I just stopped. I was like, I can't control her. I can't control me. I can't control her. And I surrendered. And then it just opened up all these portals of information. And all of a sudden, I got this idea to do this other thing different than I'd been doing it for years. And it created this whole new experience between us where I was more free and she was more free. And there was, more compassion available. And it really created a huge shift in our relationship and in me. And all along, I'd been stuck in this power grab, control, path that was not serving us, wasn't serving me, wasn't serving the system. And it's been huge. It's been a huge turning point. So that's why I really like to teach this. I teach a monthly workshop called Transform Conflict to Connection with one simple question. And this one simple question that I talked about at the top of this call is really the portal to this deeper self-awareness and self-empowerment, which I love when people get to tap into that place of personal empowerment.
I love that story that you, even though the details of you and your daughter are probably so different than other people's details, but I still feel like there's a parallel in too many of us of what you described. Because as being parents of young kids, especially, I always, especially in this world of everything coming at us and what we see,
Yep.
but I think so many of us, and me included, and my story was probably different, but trying to control, and the expectations of what you think your kid's supposed to do, what your parenting is supposed to look like.
Yep.
And until I did exactly what you just said, the surrender of letting go and opening up for that love. Because even to this day, as teenagers, when I feel any of that anxiety rise up in me that my kid's not doing enough, not where they're supposed to be, I've parented wrong, this or that, I always stop and let it go and just think of love, like you just said, in terms of like what they already are and being grateful for what they are, or how much I love them, or any of that. And it does help me shift that.
Yep.
And I still think I have a lot to go, but I think what you just described, too many people can relate to
Hmm.
in their own personal story.
Yep.
So tell me your name of your class again.
It's called Transform Conflict to Connection with One Simple Question.
Nice. And what else, as we start to wrap this up, what other, so you have your class, what other ways can people find you, or other things besides your book as well? I know you have 2 books that people can find you and benefit from your wealth of resource and helping people in this um, whole journey
Thank you
that
so
we have
much.
called life.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet to ask. Well, my website is the best place to go find more information. It's AnnmarieChereso.me. I'm sure you'll put that in your show notes because it's a tricky
Absolutely.
name to spell.
Yes.
You can get my free quiz there. What's really fueling conflict in your
Ooh,
relationships? It's a quick free quiz, so it's a good one
good.
to take.
Yeah, good stuff.
And I'm on Instagram at Annmarie Chereso, so it's another fun place to be in relationship to me. And yeah, that's where you can get all the goods.
Great. I will put all of that in the show notes. Um, I love that you were here with us. This has been a great conversation. I know those are good, simple takeaways. Anything that you'd like to say just to wrap it up to all our listeners as they close this off and walk back into their reality?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing you can learn to do to create more connection and love in your relationships is to start with yourself and create more space to um, connect with and create more love in yourself. And that all starts by asking yourself one simple question. So take the time to create the space to get to know yourself more deeply.
I love that. Thank you, Anne Marie, and thank you so much for spending your time with us. I appreciate it so much.
Me too. Thank you. It was such a great conversation. It went so fast.
I
So
know they always go so fast, and but I like so good. So thank you. We'll
thank
have to
you,
have you
Kelly.
back if you have time in the future, because I would love to.
I would love it. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for listening in.
Absolutely. Thanks.